Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Jason and I were just chatting about the selection for president. And he's working on a website so that you could vote for him, write him in. And we were talking about in the past, I have written myself in for president a bunch of times, and governor, and senator, congressman, mayor. And that's because there's nobody worth voting for. And I mentioned to Jason that we've received some calls over the years from people saying that I should run for president. And I said, no, not me. USA Prepares maybe, but not me. And we'll just bring the whole faculty of USA Prepares and, just do the right thing for the villagers, represent them, their interests, put America first. And actually, I didn't tell him the story, but if Mike Ma, one of our instructors, were president, that would be pretty interesting. And Mike Ma, for those of you who are new to class, is a combat Marine. He was in Vietnam, and he was in the thick of it, in the shooting part. And about 10% of the Marines actually are combat Marines. So just because you know someone who's a Marine doesn't mean they've been shooting at and being shot at. Well, he was. And what he would do if he were in the White House as president is he'd be known for carrying his guns, and he does. And he'd call people in that he'd want to have a discussion with and see how they feel about certain things. And if they disagreed with him, that gun would probably go off, that pistol. And then everybody else that got called would be really afraid to go meet with the boss. Because you remember what happened to the last guy that had a chat with the boss. So that's kind of what Mike Ma's administration would be like. And it wouldn't be that he was a dictator, but he'd want people to do the right thing and have morals and values and a code of conduct and be polite and so forth. That's what he would want. He would want honesty and integrity in the Mike Ma White House. Something that is lacking and has been lacking for decades in that area known as the District of Criminals. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Your dial is set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class with us today. I'm Vincent Finelli. And today it's just me. Just me and a couple Colts. And those Colts have names. And if you want to see what they look like, you can go to the internet. And the Colts that I have with me in the studio have names. And their names are real short. Very, very short. So you can type in Colt, C-O-L-T, and then you can type in the type of Colt. One of them is a black Colt. And the name of the black Colt is AR-15, as in AR-15. The other Colt is named 1911, after the year 1911. So if you want to look up what the Colts look like, you can go to the internet and type in Colt space AR-15, click on images, you'll see it, or you can click on Colt 1911, 1911, and click on images. You'll see what they look like. Rich Eben is farming today. He's preparing for winter. He's stacking wood. As the weather's getting colder and winter approaches, this is what farmers do. And Rich knows that if he wants to be warm this winter, he's got to do that. So he is gathering wood, and wood heats 4 times. Not just once, it heats 4 times. It heats when you gather it. It heats when you cut it. It heats when you stack it. And it heats when you burn it. So at least 4 times, sometimes 5 or more. And since Rich Sheben mentioned cars this morning, I had a wonderful opportunity to chat with one of his friends. One of his friends came over with his truck yesterday, and he needed a little bit of help with it. And it has a traction control problem, a computer issue that Ford can't figure out. It also has a symbol on the dash saying there's another problem with it. And so we have this deluxe scanner. It does everything, except it doesn't recognize the Ford F-150. Like 7 years old, 8 years old, something like that. Think about that. So the most common, popular truck ever made, Ford F-150, this scanner that is advertised as being able to attach to, diagnose, reset, all these models of vehicles, and you can't connect to this particular Ford. And it's not like there's only one of them. There's a lot of them. Millions of Fords. So we're going to talk to the company and find out, Autel is the name of the company, what's up? Why did these people lie? Why did they say that, oh yeah, it diagnoses and connects and you can service all these vehicles with this very expensive scan tool? And it doesn't. They all do it. They all do it. All the brands that we've tried lie. They say that they can do things that they can't possibly do. They'll say, oh yeah, it works with BMW, it works with Mercedes, and you go to connect to it, and it doesn't. It doesn't. I hate that. And so what do you do with this device? So let me tell you the story since Rich Sheben mentioned cars. He's not even here and he mentioned cars. Can you imagine that? So Rich's friend and our friend, this gentleman was here yesterday at the farm, and he drove out to see Rich. Spent some time at Rich's farm in Montana. So Rich knows this gentleman. And this man has a John Deere manufactured riding lawnmower. You sit on it and you turn the wheel, and it has a mower deck, and that's all it does. It's a riding lawnmower. It's not a tractor. And it has a belt that drives the mower. And what he wanted to do was, he thought, I'll just bring it to John Deere and have them put a belt on for me. Now, how much could that possibly cost? Well, I'll tell you. If you go to the internet, I looked up this particular model mower, and it's similar. Not exactly the same, but similar to the ones that you might see at Walmart in the good old days, like, last December. And it's just a small riding mower. It's not a tractor. It's just a riding mower. And they're a couple $1,000s, like $2,000 at Walmart. And all he wanted to do was get this lawnmower belt because the belt was just about ready to break. I looked up the price of the belt on the internet, and you can buy it for $12.54. And if you want to replace the pulleys, while you're there's 2 pulleys, and they're $13.50 for the pair. So less than $30 for parts. He dropped it off. He put it on his trailer, dropped it off at the local John Deere dealership. By the way, all the John Deere dealerships within, half of Missouri, literally half of Missouri, are owned by the same corporation, the same umbrella corporation. So they are able to do some amazing things like fix prices and charge outrageous prices. So how long would it take someone who has never done this belt swap before for the mower? About a half an hour, 30 minutes. So he brought it in, dropped it off, went back to see if it was ready, a week later, and nope. Went back again, and they said, oh yeah, it's been ready. So it was ready the first time he went. So he went twice, and they didn't realize that they had already fixed it. And they presented him with the bill. So the $13.50 pulleys, We're about the same price. The belt was $16. So the total bill for the whole job replacing this belt was $324 for a half-hour job. $38 for parts and tax, $286 for labor. Anybody shocked? So what do you do in a case like that? Well, obviously you don't want to go back there. And I had a recommendation for him that would sting, S-T-I-N-G, that John Deere dealership. And it's really simple. And I recommended that he pursue this. And if he needs any help, I'll be glad to help him. All he has to do, because he paid for it with a credit card, all he has to do is turn that credit card over, and on the back there's an 800 number or a toll-free number. And that is customer service for that particular credit card issuer. You call that company, the credit card bank, and you say, I have a problem with a transaction. Here is the merchant, John Deere, at the particular location, the actual location name of that John Deere dealership. And here is the amount, and here's the date. And the person on the end of the phone will say, well, tell me about it. And all he has to do is say, I brought this in for a belt, purchase of a belt, $16. And they installed some pulleys, and they claim they made some adjustments. Literally, there's hardly anything to adjust. It's a half-hour job. And the bill was $324. I was held up by John Deere. As in Jesse James held up. And I would like to dispute this charge because it's unreasonable. In my world, I would call that the 5 o'clock surprise. Kind of like you have your car fixed and they say, well, it'll be ready on Friday. It'll be ready on Friday. It'll be ready on Friday. And you go at Friday and they say, well, it's almost ready. And then, you're expecting it's going to be ready at 4 o'clock because that's what they told you. And they make you wait, and they're closing. They close at 5. And it's ready at 5 o'clock, and they say, okay, they take it off the lift, and they say, okay, here you go. Here's your bill. And you go, whoa, that's outrageous. That's a 5 o'clock surprise. There's nothing you can do because they're closing. They're not going to be there tomorrow. They're not going to be there Sunday. And you've got this outrageous bill and you need your vehicle so you can get to work. That's a 5 o'clock surprise. So if that ever happens, what you do is where they say, sign your name right here on the work order or the credit card transaction. You write the word dispute, D-I-S-P-U-T-E. And then you sign your name. And that tells the credit card company, because they can see that electronically, that you didn't like it from the very beginning of the transaction payment. And what they'll do immediately, right then and there on the phone, in the case of our friend and Richard's friend, the credit card bank will reverse that transaction, take the money out of the merchant's account, take it back from John Deere, and put it into the customer of the credit card, the bank's customer. You get your money back, all of it, right then and there. Now, additionally, the merchant, John Deere, gets slapped with a fee, $35. And I'll tell you the rest of the story when we come back. So, class, if you'd like to call in and if you've got some questions about preparedness, I'm going to be talking about the tips from the book today. And I've got plenty of them, so I've got plenty to talk about. But if you've got some questions and suggestions about preparedness, and I'd like to stay focused on preparedness today, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. That's the number to reach me. I'll see you on the call screen. I'll put you on the air. Okay, so what happens when you officially file a dispute with a credit card bank, your credit card bank? They take the information and the dispute starts day one and you get your money credited to your account right then and there on the phone. So you get all your money back. And banks don't do anything for free, you know that. So they charge you interest and they try to find all kinds of ways to make money on the movement of digital currency. And what they'll do is they'll slap the John Deere dealership with a $35 fee because you initiated this dispute. So John Deere's can be frosted. Now they have an option. They can do something or they can do nothing. If they do nothing, that money stays in your account and you get all your money. In this case, our friend would get the belt, the pulleys, and the labor for free. And that would be compensation for him putting up with this ridiculous situation. But that's probably not fair, right? But John Deere has another option. They can respond and say, they can appeal it. They can say, no. That's what we always do. We always charge our customers so much money. And then the bank can say, you think that labor charge of $286 for a half-hour job is fair? No. We're going to cut it in half. We're going to split it, and you only get half back. So the bill becomes a little bit more reasonable, but it's still an overcharge. That's how it works. Now, if John Deere responds, and they have to respond in writing to the bank, when they respond, they can do it by email or by, physical USPS mail. But they have to respond in writing, and they have 30 days in which to do that. If they fall outside the 30 days, the customer wins. But if they do respond, what typically happens is all the money goes back into John Deere's account. It gets taken out of the customer's account and gets put back in John Deere's account. And if the customer says, hold it, wait a minute, that's ridiculous, and responds in writing because he has 30 days to do the same thing, this can go on and on until somebody gives up. The one who gives up first loses. That's the way this works. It's called a dispute. And I suggest you learn how this works. I told you how it works. I suggest you keep this in the back of your mind, and you initiate disputes when you are cheated. Now, do not do this frivolously. But if you feel that you've been cheated, and you feel that you've tried to work it out, and it can't be fixed, this is what you do. And I've done it several times. And typically the things that cause the most disputes in my world is when someone in the family is cheated with an automobile repair. It's real common because people have no idea what entails the repair of their car. They have no idea. So the merchant, the mechanic, the shop, in this case, John Deere's repair shop, in my opinion, ripped our friend off. It happened to family members. And when it does, I have the same reaction, and I help those who have been ripped off respond. And I can respond as a mechanic and say, here's what it really is. And I can cite the internet sources, and I can say, well, here's what it really should cost. Here's what the internet says. Here's how much the parts cost. You can get them at AutoZone. You can get them online. You can get them at lots of different places. Here's the proof that they inflated the prices way, like double retail. And here's how long it takes. It takes a half an hour, and they charge 2 hours. And an hour for them is, let's say, $100 or $120. Who do they think they are? You have to cut these guys down to size. Kyle in Montana, welcome.
Good morning, Vince.
Hey.
Since you mentioned cars,
Kyle.
I was just going to put. Go ahead.
I was trying to think of what would be a good name for the book, and that is the name of the book. Since you mentioned cars, and it has something to do with cars, but not completely. It's not totally about cars, but it's it's kind of this inside joke we have here at USA Prepare. So when Rich Sheepman's on with me, he does his best to make sure I don't say that. So I say it even when he's not here.
So you got to stay in practice.
Yeah,
right?
I do.
Yeah, so I was just going to put an exclamation point on some of the stuff you were saying there about the dealership. My daughter has a Honda Pilot, and the ignition switch went out of it, and the dealership quoted her almost $500 to replace that ignition switch. And so my daughter, being my daughter, jumps online, figures out, sees how to do it before she even calls me. She sees how to change out that ignition switch herself. But the problem is the car, even though if you change the ignition switch, you still have to go into the computer and make sure that the new key will read the computer, and the computer will read that key. And so the old key has to be in proximity of the original ignition switch in order for the car to run. So what we did when she called me, because she kind of got in a little bit over her head, but she was motivated to save a whole bunch of money. And so we went and bought $112 ignition switch, if I remember correctly. I might not be right off on those numbers, but anyway, we bought the ignition switch, installed it, put it in, and so the key would turn over. But in order for the key to turn over, I had in order to get the vehicle to Honda to be able to reprogram it, I took the old key, taped it to the ignition switch, the old ignition switch, so that it would have a proximity, because it has to be in a certain proximity, taped it to it, and then the new ignition switch would start the car. And because they were telling her that she was going to have to be towed over there, and that was going to be like $65 more. And anyway, by the time we got all said and done with this thing, we got out way less than half price. They did charge us like $70 to reprogram it, and because the service writer was fixing to try to charge her all kinds of money, and I walked out there to when he was talking to the mechanic, and I said, "Let's get this straight. All you got to do is untape that old ignition switch, unplug it, plug it into the new one, plug your computer in, tell it that this one's the new one, and put that cover back on, and you don't even have to do that. We'll do it. Take you 10 minutes. Because that guy was still wanting to try to charge us like $180-something. And I said, well, and that ain't going to happen, or else you'll drive it just like it is. Anyway, the mechanic looked up at the service writer and said, yeah, he's right. About 10, 15 minutes is all it's going to take me. Oh, okay, then I guess we'll be all right. And so, it ended up being, they still charged her $70, which was, at that point we were into it about $180-something rather than almost 500. So anyway, that just puts in a little bit of a exclamation point on what you were just talking about. You just people have to be motivated, and they have to be aware. But I had one other thought. I was going to go down a little rabbit trail with you here. So folks, I was at a gun show this last weekend, and I happened to have two very fortuitous conversations. One of them was with a gentleman who owns that provides security for 4 Fortune 500 companies down south. And they were in big cities in Atlanta and Louisville and Kentucky, and then some other big cities down there. I'm not going to name the name, of course. I don't want something to happen. But anyway, the companies have told him to put on 200 more people and have them trained and ready to go before November. So if you think that there's not going to be anything happen, I think sticking your head in the sand is going to be the easiest way to get your butt blowed off. So my opinion is, this guy, and so what I told him we had a conversation, went on for a while. And what I told him at the end is I've been telling people to make sure they've got enough propane, gasoline, food, water, ability to get water, all of these things, and make sure you can get through this winter, through March of this next year, and whatever it's going to take. And he was starting to walk off, and he turned around, looked me straight in the eye, and said, "That is exactly correct." So then the next conversation that I happened to have was with another person who was one of the top executives for a major bank. And they are moving here in this area. And they said to me that before they could get permission from the bank to move, they had to provide the bank with the exact location of where they were moving to, physical address, and have 24 phone and internet access 24/7 for the next 5 months. Now, I don't know, I was talking to them and I said, what is all of that, kind of security and craziness, why is that so? And she said, well, they haven't said anything to me specifically, but my feeling is something is fixing to happen, or they are expecting something very bad to happen. But she did say that they haven't said anything to me specifically. So anyway, I just thought I would throw that out there. Folks, you've got, 40 some odd days till the election, and the crazies are already winding up before the election. And there's reports coming in that they are somehow getting weapons. And it ain't stuff that you go down here to your local hardware store and buy. So anyway, I think if this is a rough winter, there's going to be a huge die-off because, in my opinion, the mom and the dad that just has a hunting rifle that is starving to death will do very mean, crazy things to get food for their family, because they know they're going to die anyway if they don't. The person that has nothing to lose has everything to gain. So I'm just throwing that out there. People can do with it whatever you want. I know I have been going full tilt, Vince, all summer long, because I've been able to see this thing and coming since the beginning of last spring. And we've put in and harvested the largest garden we have ever done. And my wife is still working on it, and I'm working on it and keeping everything going, figuring out different resources for power and different options for things and extra everything. So I'm hoping. I hope I'm so wrong. I hope I am wrong so bad. But if I'm not wrong, it's a matter of life and death. So anyway, I've
got some comments about. Do you have time for a few comments?
Oh, you bet. I called in to stay with you for a while if you want.
That's great. That's great. I'm delighted that you did, Kyle. Okay, you mentioned the ignition switch. So yes, that particular Honda ignition switch can be had for as low as $85 for an imported, Chinese copy, or you can spend, $150, $160, $165 for that switch, depending on which one you get and how greedy the seller is. But that's the internet price. And we had a Ford Escape here. We were working on it. It was a 2003, and that little bugger, we needed to change the computer. And it's real easy. It's maybe a 15-minute job to change the computer. You just open the hood, take out one bolt, take off a connector with a lot of wires on it, take that off, put the new computer in. But the new computer will not recognize the old key because there's a transponder in the key, kind of like the problem that you had. And so we did some research, like, what do you do? Well, you tow it to Ford and you can, have them use their computer. Well, really, there's a workaround. And one of those, what you said, there's a transponder in the plastic part of the key, and you put the two keys together and it may work. But in order to program the new key, or the key to the computer, it's kind of a hidden thing, but what you do, and this is kind of close, but it's not exact because I'm going from memory from months and months and months ago. But you put the old key in the ignition, and you step on the turn it to on, run, not start, but to the previous position before starting it, the run position. You step on the gas pedal 3 times, take out the old key, put in the new key, step on the gas pedal 3 times, and it's programmed. But where does it tell you to do that? You got to do a lot of research to figure that out, because Ford isn't going to tell you. So these new cars with these plastic transponders in the part that you hold with your thumb and forefinger, they've got a transponder in them. They're expensive, and you just can't get any key at Walmart and have it work. The days of the 39-cent keys and the 29-cent keys, that's over. It's absolutely over. We had a BMW in here that had a broken key. And so in order to make that work, you had to take the plastic transponder from the old key and use it with the new key in order to make that work. Otherwise, it's $750 for the key. I got some comments about the other things that you were talking about, the Civil War. Kyle's joined us from Montana. And Kyle, you've brought up some very, very good points. And one of them is that you're going to have to figure out how to fix these things on your own, class. Literally. Because the cost that these monopolies have decided they can get away with is over the top. This $324 to put a belt and 2 pulleys on a lawnmower is out of control. And the same gentleman went to the Ford dealer with his Ford truck, and the traction control light came on, said that, there's a concern. And so he brought it to Ford, and they said, okay, well, we're going to charge you to tell you what we think we could do to fix it. So they charged him, and then they said, it'll be about $900, and we're going to replace parts until we get it right. So the first part we're going to replace is going to be $900. But we don't know if that's going to solve the problem or not. So what we did, our son bought a scan tool, a pretty sophisticated one that said that it could, determine what the problem is. And it can't yet. So we have to find out why the scan tool doesn't work. So now what we're dealing with the dealerships that don't have the knowledge, the training, the expertise, the tools to fix the problem right off the bat, because they don't know. And that the reason that some of this is happening is because the vehicles have become so complex, because the generally dumb public thinks it's great to have a driver's side control for the heat and air conditioning separate from the passenger side. It's ridiculous. It used to be, and I'm challenged. I'm literally challenged trying to fix some of these vehicles. I recharged an air conditioning system on a Mercedes. It was really simple. I knew what the problem was. The compressor locked up. So we replaced the expansion valve, we replaced the receiver dryer filter, and it was an external compressor lockup, so it didn't explode inside. So we didn't have to worry about, bits of metal and shavings and so forth being inside these fine passages of the air conditioning system. So we added extra parts just as a precaution, the receiver dryer filter, which is one part, and the expansion valve, and we replaced the compressor, and I charged it, and it didn't work. I'm thinking, what's with this? I've been doing this since the 70s. I know how to do this. This is, something that's common for me to do, and it wouldn't work. And the reason was we had to tell the climate control computer in this Mercedes, a 2004, hey, reset and start working. That's what we had to do because it didn't know what to do. It got confused. So there's a transmission control computer. There's an ignition system computer. There's every kind of computer you can think of is in these cars. Suspension. And we can't live with them. And the dealerships can't fix them. And the mechanics don't want to pay the money out of the small shops to buy these expensive computer tools in order to diagnose the problem. Because it's not just the mechanical issue anymore. It used to be really simple. If the engine didn't start, it was either an ignition problem or a carburation problem. I mean, those were the two focal points. Now, carburation or the ignition system could be computer controlled. So the ignition could be right, but the computer could be failing. Or it could be the fuel injection system. Or who knows? Because you need a computer to figure out what's wrong with the computer. That's where we are today. So I suggest you don't buy new cars. I mean, it's crazy to buy a new car because they're hard to fix and expensive to fix and they're unaffordable to keep. That was one thing. So learn what you can to keep what you have. And one of the discussions that we had with our friend yesterday was he was thinking about buying a new truck. And I said, I really love your truck. I think it's a wonderful truck. Please don't buy a new truck, because he was thinking that if you had a new truck, at least it'd be under warranty. But they're so complex that you can't fix them. And 2 years, after the warranty, or 1 year, whenever the warranty's over, now you got a real problem because they're more expensive to fix than the one he has. So I believe he's not going to be buying a new truck, and I'm delighted about that. But, we had that discussion. Next thing I'd like to talk about, since Kyle mentioned this, and I believe we're 50 days away from the escalation of the Second American Revolution combined with the Second Civil War. We're already in it, in my opinion. But I believe it's going to escalate on Election Day, or the day after, or a couple of days after that. And the reason I say that is because the Democrats aren't going to be pleased if the Republicans win, and vice versa. So no matter who wins, it's going to be a mess. And there's going to be claims, I can just see it from here, that there are going to be claims that the election was stolen. It was pre-decided. And both sides are going to be angry, no matter who wins. So that's when the escalation begins. And I'd like to share with you, and Kyle can add in when we come back. Have you seen the television series from the 1960s? It started in 1962 through 1967. It's called Combat. It was set in France during World War II. And the austerity, the poverty was unbelievable. And that's where we're headed. We'll be right back, and I'd love to hear Kyle's comments about the television show with Vic Morrow and Rick Jason. Combat. Everyone all set? Cocked, locked, hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Kyle's joined us from Montana. I'm delighted that he called in. I mentioned the television series from 1962 to 1967 titled Combat with an exclamation point. So C-O-M-B-A-T exclamation point. That's the title of the series. And it starred Vic Morrow and Rick Jason. And it was set in France during World War II. And it was the Americans trying to defend France against the Nazi invasion. Now, many of us were probably not taught this in school, but let me share this with you. On December 7th, 1941, the Japanese in an unprovoked attack, bombed a U.S. naval site in Hawaii and blew it up. They destroyed most of our fleet. It was unprovoked. So the Japanese declared war on us with a sneak attack. December 7th, 1941. 4 days later, and this is the part that's not taught in school, Germany declared war on the United States. So if you're wondering why we fought the Germans, it's because they declared war on us. So the reason I mentioned combat, and this is, I'm going to assigning this as homework class. There is an entire series that you can buy, DVD series. It's really expensive in my world. Now, I've seen it as high as almost $200. And I bought a copy used, the complete set, all the series, for $50 shipped. So it can be done. And you can buy it on eBay used, and I'm okay with buying used DVDs. I absolutely am. But what you'll see, and the reason I'm assigning this as homework, is I believe this is where we're headed. I've assigned The Walking Dead. I've assigned Jericho, and I've assigned Survivors, and now Combat, C-O-M-B-A-T exclamation point. So this series will show you how miserable war is, and this is as real as it gets, and it's the lives of the guys who were fighting in combat in France. And it shows the lives of an American squad of soldiers. And you will see that they're hungry, they're cold, they're dirty, the conditions are just awful. The tanks are coming after them. They're outnumbered, outgunned in many instances. It's just awful. And it's just the will to survive that gets them through this, and the camaraderie. So I suggest you consider that. And the reason that it's so important that I assigned it as homework is because I really believe that's where we're headed. You will see people living without food. You will see buildings bombed to smithereens. You will see people ratting each other out. You will see the worst and the best of humanity. And I think it's a lesson that you need to learn right now. Right now. Because this is where we're headed. As we get closer to the election, 50 days away, no one's going to be happy. Or at least most people aren't going to be happy. We're just going to sit out on the sidelines and kind of watch the chaos. Not that we're going to enjoy it. It's going to be awful. It's going to be the worst days, or some of the worst days of our country, if not the worst. Brother against brother, neighbor against neighbor, dog eat dog, the supply chain collapsing further, the sickness, the disease, the lack of water, the lack of sanitation, the trash everywhere. It'll take generations to clean up the mess. It's all built on the greed and stupidity of people. It really is. We have, regardless of what you think about the guy in the White House, it seems like he hasn't been telling the truth about the corona panic and the coronavirus. Now we thought maybe we could, at least maybe, there's one guy that, is trying to get us out of this mess. But now we're starting to learn that he's not the white knight, figuratively, that some might have thought he was. So the corruption is everywhere. The greed is everywhere. The stupidity is everywhere. And you have to figure out how to do almost everything, if not everything, for yourself. You've got to grow your own food. You have to process your own food. You have to store your own food. You have to learn how to defend what you have. You've got to get out of Dodge. And that's what Kyle's been saying. And when you watch Combat, you will see how really bad it was. The buildings are being burned in cities throughout the country. 48 of the 50 largest cities are having problems with, we can call them protests, you can call them riots. They're riots. Buildings are being destroyed. New York City is vacant. There are people sleeping on the streets like never before. The country is going down. You need to take care of you. You cannot fix this problem. It's way bigger than we can fix. I can't fix it. Kyle can't fix it. Class, you can't fix it. All of us together can't fix it. It's too big. So you are in charge of you. Kyle, any comments? Did I lose Kyle? And Kyle, are you there? It says that you're there. Yep. Okay. Okay. Kyle, are you there? Have you muted your phone? Okay. Well, I'll keep talking and Kyle, just chime in. So one of the things I wanted to share with you today, class, is that we have a vice president hopeful. Her name is Kamala Harris, or Kamala Harris. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I don't watch the news. Her family owned slaves in Jamaica. Y'all know that? And she was seen in Miami, Florida. She's the gal that wants to ban black rifles. They call them assault rifles, AR-15s. And she was being protected by the police. And guess what they were carrying? Black rifles. And those are the same police that she vows to defund. And she was wearing a black mask. Jumpin' Joe the plagiarist wears a black mask as well. How come he wears a black mask? Is there something about a black mask? Does it mean something that I don't know about? Is that different from a white mask? Or a light blue colored mask, the way that surgeons would wear those blue masks? What is it? Does it mean Black Lives Matter? Or is that the new color of the American SS? What does it mean? China enjoys something called a most favored nation status with the United States, which means that the United States will treat China as well or better than any of its other trading partners. Now think about that. Why did that happen? Well, Bill Clinton in his campaign promises while he was stumping in the 1990s said that he would not do that. But he did. He made China a most favored nation for trading. So we treat them better or as well as other trading partners. Now, who are the Chinese? Well, these are the guys that steal our technology. They dump low-cost and substandard products in the United States, sometimes below cost of production, to drive our manufacturers out of business. And then they raise the prices, meaning China does. They fill our landfills with junk that doesn't work. And they take our dollars while they're destroying our manufacturing base. China is the counterfeiting capital of the world, in my opinion. They counterfeit cell phones, all kinds of electronics, leather belts, handbags. They even counterfeit U.S. currency, silver dollars, and everything else in between. They're the guys that unleash the corona death and the corona panic. Now, my question is, why is it that our current president hasn't eliminated the most favored nation status for the Chi-Coms? Why? Why has our Congress allowed this to continue? Why? Are they paying attention? Next thing, I see a call on the call screen, but I don't know who's. Let's try this. Hi, you're on with me, Vincent Finelli. Hello? Anybody home? Hello? Well, if you're there, please speak up. Maybe, could it be our control board at GCN has got this call muted? I'm not sure what's going on. We'll see if we can fix it during the, okay. I see that Nathan is working on it right now. Okay, while he's doing that, arson in the United States of America has destroyed houses, businesses, towns, neighborhoods, infrastructure, animals. It's killed millions of animals. And people.
Hey, Vince.
Hey, Kyle, it's great to hear your voice. Hold on one second. Let me just finish this about the arson. So it's difficult to get an accurate number of the number of fires. But according to my research, and I haven't seen this anywhere else, but it looks like it's about close to 1,000. 1,000 fires. Now, some people call these wildfires. Maybe some of them are natural. But in my opinion, most of these fires are caused by man's stupidity, greed, carelessness, recklessness, etc. Careless smokers, idiotic gender reveal parties with the fireworks that, that rain pink or blue smoke, stupid things like that. And then there's plain old arson. My question to y'all is, what should be done with an arsonist? Someone who either intentionally or unintentionally kills people, animals, burns infrastructure, causes people to have to leave their homes, and then the homes get looted. This intentional display of aberrant behavior. What should be done? Should they be executed, with a public hanging, where you're absolutely sure that the person was hung and killed as a result of this reckless, wanton killing of life, plant and animal life, and destruction of hard work? I think a public hanging is the way to go. Dangling for a couple days. Make sure everybody gets a chance to see that it really did happen. I think that's what we do with arsonists. Well, I've got some of the controls. Kyle, I'm not sure what happened. Our engineer isn't sure either, but I'm glad you're back. Did you hear what I had to say about Combat, the television series from 1962 to 67?
Yeah, I was still trying to talk to you.
Okay.
Trying to see if you could hear me, but I heard some of it. But yes, I did hear about, I think people are going to be cold and miserable, and we have never experienced anything like this in our country, really. Not anywhere near that kind of brutality, and even Vince, even the people that are moving here, it's really interesting because they're buying houses here sight unseen. No kidding. I've heard of multiple people that are friends of mine that are either in the construction business or real estate business, and saying they are making home sales over the phone. I mean, literally, people are just buying them. And somehow they think that moving to this area is going to save them. But they don't understand how brutal some of the winters can be. And they don't understand what it's like to live without infrastructure or heat. They expect that when they turn the electric heat on, it's going to warm the house up, or the natural gas is always going to flow, or the water is going to always flow. There's a mentality of a lot of people that have moved here that think that just because they've moved here, they're okay now. They're out of the mayhem. But I think if the infrastructure does not hold together, if that happens, and or the supply chain does not hold together, the reality of the brutality and craziness is going to overwhelm 95% of the people.
Okay, I agree with everything you've said. And so, class, think about this. There are people, believe it or not, who believe that water comes from the faucet. They don't realize that there's a team of people who make that happen, make the pumps work, make sure that the water's treated. I'm talking about city water, for example. Make sure that it's safe to drink, chemically treated, filter out the big chunks, make sure there's the appropriate pressure. Too much pressure and your pipes will burst. Not enough pressure and you won't have any water flowing out of your shower head. That kind of thing. So there are people that go to work every day to make sure that happens. Now, when the infrastructure breaks and they can't get gasoline and they can't go to work, the water stops flowing. It's not automatic. It's maintained every single day, 24/7. Somebody's there working on it, making sure. There's a crew of mechanics and maintenance people that make sure it works. Not just the people who send out the bills. I'm talking about the people who actually make sure that the water gets delivered. The people who fix the broken pipe, water mains, etc. Meters that start leaking. There's all kinds of problems that can happen. And it's not like the water just comes out of the faucet automatically by magic. It's an act of man that makes that happen. Well, when those people can't go to work, it stops shortly thereafter. So natural gas doesn't come out of the ground naturally and get delivered to your home naturally. It's delivered by infrastructure, which is maintained by people. We're in for an unbelievable mess. Unbelievable. And I'm not so sure that the president, the current guy in the White House, understands that climate has changed. You know, a 70-degree delta in 24 hours in Denver, Colorado recently is mind-blowing. 70-degree change in temperature in 24 hours? That's relatively new. We've had a 50-degree delta here in Missouri, and I was shocked. The animals were shocked. The plants were shocked. The trees were shocked. Everything was shocked. And during the summer, I mean, Kyle mentioned it. He's right. Absolutely right. So in the heat of the summer, when it's no fun working really hard outside, we're hauling wood. 2 years worth. Why? Because that's when you get the wood in the summer, when no one's thinking about it. I'm talking about wood for heat. People are going to be freezing, and it's going to cost a lot more when they realize that they're cold to buy that same wood that they could have gotten. Class, Kyle joined us. Kyle in Montana, USA Prepares Instructor. And I want to share something about prices. I'd love to get Kyle's input on this. We live a couple thousand miles apart. I'm in Missouri. He's in Montana. So, Kyle, 6 months ago, we decided that we were going to buy 2 German Shepherd puppies. And Mrs. Finelli did some research, and she found a breeder in Missouri. And this breeder had pups ready right then and there. And so I called and talked to them, and it sounded like they were just what we were looking for. They were offered at $350 each. Now, these are registered German Shepherd puppies, checked for hip dysplasia. I mean, these are perfect. These are magnificent animals. I'm not bragging. I didn't raise these or breed them. I just bought them. And so they were $350 a piece, and I said to the breeder, I'd like to buy 2 of them, if that's okay with you. He said, sure. I said, how much would it be for 2 of them? Now, I can certainly multiply 350 times 2. I could do that. He said, I'll tell you what. We'll do it $300 a piece if you buy 2. I said, okay. May I come right now? He said, yes. So we bought 2 of them, 2 females. And they are just the most attentive, the most wonderful. They're spectacular in every respect. Now, the reason I'm telling you this story is that, 1, I want you to think about a protection animal or 2. The second reason is I want to tell you what happened to the price. And I was talking with one of our instructors, and he may call in sometime, and when he gets his, and his are going to be available soon, within a week or so. And he's buying them from the same breeder, same parents, same breeder, $800. So the price went from $350 to $800 as a result of the new monetary system, the new economy, the corona panic, the increase in demand for protection animals. Kyle, have you seen the price of quality things going up, regardless of whether they are biological quality or mechanical quality or electrical quality. Have you seen the same thing?
Absolutely, Vince. It's just been stunning. A friend of mine actually works in the electrical department of Home Depot, and he told me that they can't, the cost of breakers for them, they're trying to hold it, but it's went up to them, and they've increased somewhere in the neighborhood of 30%, and they can't even get them. And yet, just like I was going to mention, the gun show that I was at, Vince, last week before the gun show, I called every store in the surrounding area of where I'm at right now, and none of them, I mean 0 of them, had any 9mm, 10mm, 38, 357, or 223 ammunition at any cost. Okay? But just after the gun show, one store that I happened to call back had a 150 round pack of 9mm for $65. And they only had one. But what was crazy, Vince, was there was more ammunition, primers, cases, loaded ammunition of anything and everything you could possibly want at this show, which is why there was probably every dealer I talked to mentioning said they had had the best show they had ever had. They had almost sold out. One guy sold out everything that he had on the table practically on Friday afternoon and had to go back to his hometown, which is about 80 miles away, get a whole bunch more stuff so he'd have something to put on his table for Saturday. Now, that's people think to themselves, well, that's really good that people are preparing. But I've been thinking about this a little bit. Yes, it's good that people are preparing to protect themselves, but what if that's all they're doing? What if they don't have any food, gasoline, car parts, any way to get water? Then what happens? Then they turn into your enemy because they are going to try to take what you have. So, folks, I'm trying my best. Like I said, I hope and pray. I honestly, before God, I hope and pray that I'm wrong, that we go through this winter maybe with a few bumps and bruises, maybe by the time it's all over and everything goes back to even this kind of normal, what we've got now. Even this would be extremely preferable to what I believe is coming. But the other thought, Vince, is this. If there is that kind of civil unrest and lawsuits being filed, like we heard on the news just a few minutes ago about the outcome of the election, and there's no clear winner and blah, 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 going on and on, this turmoil. And there's no quote-unquote commander-in-chief. What do you think that's going to make countries like Russia and China and Iran and all of those countries, they're going to be looking at us like a dog with a bone. And we are going to be at our weakest. And no matter what people think, we are hated around this world. Sure, we have most favored nation trading status with China, and just like you were mentioning before, that might be, but I believe the only reason that is that way is because all of these major corporations, these greedy, stinking, maggot corporations, for their profit, moved everything over there. And so we have no choice but to grant them that, or we don't have anything here. We don't have anything for those guys to make money with, nor do we have any parts or pieces of things to keep things going. So we're stuck. They own our debt, which I just heard a rumor the other day. I just watched this guy talking about one of their major people with the Chinese bank saying they're fixing to liquidate 20% of U.S. treasuries. Well, good grief, that's going to put a whole bunch more dollars right out there in circulation. Anyway, I just think if we are attacked or anything like that happens, China and or Russia or whoever else is with them, they're going to go nuclear right away because they already know our nuclear arsenal. If we launch it to wherever they're going to be, they will lose, like China will lose a lot more people per bomb than we would unless they hit, the major cities. But China's like that everywhere practically. So anyway, it's just we're living in really perilous times, and I think that the people should prepare to last as long as you can. And you or me or none of us are going to last, a 15-year or 20-year, even a 5-year prolonged attack like that. We might survive, but I guarantee you, we're going to be, if we do, we're going to be lean and mean, and there ain't going to be hardly anything left of what we call a society. But
as you say this, Kyle, it brings to mind that we don't have any leadership. We really don't. The governors are fighting with the mayors are fighting with the president's fighting with the governors. Everybody, it seems, in what we'll call government is looking to blame somebody else. And we don't have leadership. So that means that the people, the villagers, don't know what to do. They don't know who to believe. Can't believe the media. You can't believe the government. You can't believe the corporations. Your neighbors are being influenced, and they really don't have the whole story either. Nobody really knows. It's a mess. It really is a mess.
Yeah, I'll say one other thing, Vince.
Uh-huh.
I do believe. I've got more to say, but I do believe. With you and me and everybody else, Rich and all the other instructors, we see life through the lenses of our upbringing. You know what I'm saying? And everybody does. Everybody sees life through the lenses of their upbringing. And for all of President Trump's inconsistencies and lacks, there are no perfect men. And I do believe, personally, I'm not a forever with everything he says type of guy. You know me better than that. But I do believe, giving the sight of the way he sees things, that he is trying to do a decent job. I don't believe that he has, this is me personally, I don't believe he has a deceitful agenda brewing in his mind. I don't see that. I do think that Biden is a liar to his core. And I believe that Nancy Pelosi and Schumer are liars to their core. And we cannot, you just think about this, Vince. If Biden is elected by some miracle, the military, the police, and freedom-loving Americans cannot allow him to take office. And if Trump is elected, the crazies are going to try to burn the place to the ground. Regardless of who wins, bullets fly badly, escalate dramatically in November. And that is going to destroy the supply chain. So that's the reason Vince and I are so adamant about trying, in my opinion, to try to help people get stuff prepared. And one of the things, Vince, just to jump track a little tiny bit, one of the things is, folks, if you are trying to store gasoline, you better have enough to be able to get to town at least 20 times. Just figure on wherever you are, have enough in there, but don't store the cheapest gasoline with ethanol in it. Do not store that, because no matter, I haven't, maybe you have, Vince, but I have not found any additive that will keep the ethanol from separating from the gasoline and collecting water.
Correct.
But
that's correct.
If you can find and you can get non-ethanol gasoline, you can put a couple of different additives, PRIG or seafoam, in it to keep it good for a few years. I'll hang through the break.
That sounds great. So, class, what's happened is stupid politicians have been conned into putting ethanol, alcohol, into your gasoline, which is destroying your vehicles and your equipment. No kidding. It's absolutely true. We'll be right back. I just checked eBay for Combat, the television series. I'm talking about the one 1962 through 1967, class. So the lowest price I found is $68 and change with free shipping. So they are available. That's more than I spent. I spent $50. But I looked for a while. It killed me to spend more than $50. It killed me to spend $50. But it's absolutely worth it, and I think you'll learn a lot about where we're headed. And, you'll see the French resistance working with the Americans. So France was invaded by the Germans in World War II. And life was miserable. And when you see how little there was to eat, and how a cup of coffee was a real treat, it will make an impression on you. And I think that's where we're headed. And as Kyle mentioned, once the election, or selection with an S, occurs, there are going to be a lot of unhappy people. Probably half of America will be unhappy. And that's when the escalation begins. That's when the shooting gets even more fierce. And that's when we are ripe for being taken over by our enemies. Now, the question is, in combat, you will see the French fighting to keep their country, sniping, taking out the Germans, making life difficult for the Germans any way they could. Those would be the Nazis. So the French, the villagers, the farmers, etc., were doing everything they could to gum up the works because the Germans were destroying France. Bombs, explosions. It was awful. Buildings were destroyed. Infrastructure was destroyed. Hundreds of years of infrastructure was destroyed in a flash. Now, the question is, for all of you, what would you do if that happened to the good old USA and we were invaded by, let's say, the Chinese? Would you get that hunting rifle? And would you climb a tree and take out one here and there and make life crazy for them so they wouldn't want to come back? Would you do that? Or would you run and hide? What would you do? Because you'll see both things happened in the television series Combat! Kyle, any comments?
Yeah, I had one more thing I was going to add in here. You remember at the bottom of the hour news, it was talking about this hurricane coming in, and it said the people that are evacuating are being put in hotels. And one of the guys came on there and said, well, that's good and that's bad. It's bad because we don't have a place now to put some of the utility workers to be able to keep infrastructure going, right? So those guys have to be taken care of. Can you imagine, Vince, what would happen if two things happened? One, there was a banking crisis so that the utility workers were not getting paid. Number one. Number two, can you imagine if that kind of disaster was over almost every large city in the country? You would see such mayhem, what we've got now would seem like a walk in the park on a sunny day compared to what that would look like.
Yeah, and let's just complicate it just a little bit more. Let's say these cities had trouble getting gasoline. Okay, so it made the news that city A, B, C, D, E, they're very low on gasoline. But we want the utility workers to go out there and fix the infrastructure. So the utility workers are thinking, well, I might not be able to get home. So why do I want to go? I mean, that's just one more little thing, right? So we have, and that was in World War II. We had these problems. There was rationing. There was gasoline rationing. Who gets the gasoline? Do the villagers get the gasoline? Do the farmers get the gasoline? Because you need back then most tractors were gas powered. So in order to produce food, the farmers needed gasoline. But what about the people in the cities? You going to take it from them? The consumers? You take the gasoline from them and give it to the farmers? It's a mess. It's a real complicated, fluid, moving part situation. And nobody's going to be happy. And that's why there's going to be an escalation of what we see now. Guns pointing at everybody. Everybody's going to be pointing guns. And I don't see any way out, Kyle. I honestly don't. I'm not trying to be a fear-mongerer. I just believe that we have painted corporations and government, the people with the wealth, have painted us into a corner, and we can't get out of it. That's what I see.
Absolutely true. Yep. Totally. I absolutely agree. Yep.
Kyle, I really appreciate you calling in today. I was going to talk about some things on this list. Class, you need to sit with your family tonight for dinner. Say, no TV, no cell phones, no phone. You all sit here, and we're going to write a list of everything that we need, because we've got 50 days to pull it off. And the closer we get to the end of those 50 days, the harder it's going to be to get the things on that list. So you need to finish that list tonight, at least part of it, and get moving on it to tomorrow morning. No kidding. No kidding. Kyle, thanks so much for being with us, class. Above all, honesty and integrity. What happens next is up to you.